I'm out there leading people, helping them, inspiring them. But sometimes in my personal life, I'm going through hell. How do you motivate when you're in your own private hell?
Today's episode is brought to you by MMG Wealth Management. Now let's get on to the show. Welcome to Going Rogue 2.0 podcast, where we are celebrating all of the possibilities. And with today's guest, there are lots of possibilities that we can celebrate together and look forward to in the future. And Tony Rubleski is a friend of mine
We
and
go
a
back a little
mentor.
bit.
And I was actually thinking about when we first met, and we didn't really meet. I was in your audience. It
Yep.
was at a Muskegon Chamber event, and you were
Wow.
speaking, and you had your classic slide of the tulips with
Correct.
the one that stands out. And if you've seen it, you know, if you know, you know,
Yep.
because it is very memorable, and it is certainly a way to garner mind capture, which is what you're all about, is being memorable. So for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of meeting, working with, or learning from Tony, Tony is the president of Mind Capture Group. He has been at it in the professional world for over 25 years. He is an author, a speaker, not just any speaker. He's also a famed TEDx speaker. So you'll have to check that out. He is an expert at bringing together great groups of people. He does that annually with his annual Mind Capture Boot Camp. 15 years
Yes.
of history there. I counted up, Tony. I've been at 8,
Wow. You might
maybe
have the record, my
more.
friend. That's good.
And then some of your other events that
Yep.
surround
Thank
Mind
you.
Capture Boot Camp throughout the year. So I'm definitely a repeat visitor, loyal fan, and advocate. And it's not just because it's Tony fame. It is because there is benefits that come from going to these events and experiencing
Yep.
the energy, the learning that you get to take away, and the connections. And you can't discount the connections, because when I did put all of my sequence of events
Yep.
going backward from today to when I first started going to Mind Capture, I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like one step in front of the other. And that's what we want to do with this podcast, is to educate people, to get them motivated and inspired, first of all, motivated, educated, and then take action.
Yep.
And you are definitely an action taker. And with your latest book, book number 10 in the Mind Capture Boot Camp series, I feel like you've gone rogue.
As I look at your book right there, tell me more.
Yeah. So my observation is that you have taken your book writing, and you have gone from niche, specific to people in business and marketing, capturing that mind capture, being memorable, to being somebody who is bringing messages to the global population that everybody can benefit from, whether it be in business or in personal life. So
Yeah.
welcome,
Well,
Mr.
thank you.
Rogue.
I'm
Rogue
honored to be part of the
Rubleski.
Going Rogue Club, and a fan of your work. And thank you for the generous introduction. And I knew you'd been to a lot of events, but I remember when I met you in Muskegon many years ago, and then 8 boot camps. I think you and David Brown are the front runners of alumni, valued alumni. And I'm too close to it, but we try to bring new people every year, and you keep coming back. So we must be doing something right.
We've been together so long that now we're starting to dress coordinated too. Did you notice that?
It's true. It happens,
It does. Well, tell us about your latest book, Don't Quit. And these are 50 lessons from his life, lessons personally, professionally. Why this book? Why now?
It's a great question to start, Melissa. I think what's happened is I feel comfortable now to do a memoir looking back at the last 20 years full-time as a writer and a speaker. So the subtitle is The Pages and Stages of Life. So as a writer, that's book 10, stages, thousands of page stages. I love it. And in the book, there's some dirt. There's some rogue material. You read it.
You
And,
get vulnerable.
Our team said, if you're going to do a memoir, it's not all peaches and cream. You've got to put in the reality what goes on. And there's things that I've made mistakes on that I've been very upfront about. And the good news is I don't dwell on the mistakes. What are the lessons post-mistake? I call them an opportunity to learn. So every day we're presented with opportunities and challenges. And I say, what are the many lessons, plural, from not just the highs, but the lows? When I got to follow my own advice sometimes. I'm like, boy, I'm out there leading people, helping them, inspiring them. But sometimes in my personal life, I'm going through hell. How do you motivate when you're in your own private hell? So some of the book is very juicy. I might tell a couple stories here if we have time, but um, that's where you're tested. How bad do you really want it? I love to help people, and I'm still grateful to be in the game. A lot of my peers got out during COVID. They retired. There was no live events. Some took different career options. I respect it. So I feel like the show Survivor. I'm the last man or woman. There's a few of us left on the island that have been around this long, and I don't take it lightly. So the book is a very marked change from the other writings, and it's to say, hey, if we're going to do this now, let's go to help more people. And putting it out there, I had to make sure my kids, my editorial team, my staff was comfortable, and my clients, because some of that I wouldn't talk about for years, Melissa. From bankruptcies to being a former gambling addict. There's not something you want to be super proud and run around town, but time, forgiveness, and the amends process allows it where you feel more comfortable, and it's up to each person to reveal that. I'm not the type that goes on stage and talks about something from 8 or 10 years ago for an hour to get the fake tears or the fake applause. I see a lot of that as a meeting promoter. It's a preference I don't like, but each person has their own style. So I'm trying to say, hey, that was who I used to be, a moment in time, but that's not where I'm at now. So I thank God every day. My faith walk's a very big deal. I used to not talk about that, but I go, you know what? Life and business do intersect, Melissa. And it's one of those things that may not be popular, but at this point in my career, I'm like, I have more people say, look, dude, you're super real. Well, for many years,
Relatable.
I didn't know who I was. Yeah, I was trying to be the next Brian Tracy or some of my mentors and heroes that mentored me. And I didn't know who the hell Tony was. So it took me to my mid 40s, which I talk about in the book, where I finally hit a wall where I'm like, I'm not living the life I'm supposed to be living here. Why am I not happier? Why am I not having more contentment and joy? And I realized around that age of 45, 46, why? And then ever since then, the last 8, 9 years has been an interesting journey to keep learning and growing and writing and teaching, especially in a world that's 8-second attention spans and AI and all the massive change, and no one pays attention anymore. I mean, some of you are going to catch this on a sound reel on Instagram. You're going to catch a Facebook reel. You might watch the whole podcast. Thank you in advance, but you're the exception because we're so busy, Melissa. So to me, this is kind of the coming out party. And I felt very strange putting my picture on the cover of a book. It's kind of like,
It's
all
a good
right.
looking picture, Tom.
Well, thank you. Good photographers, I've never heard either. And I just go, if you're going to go out and help people and help more larger audiences now at this point in your career, you got to start branding you. So I will let everybody know that we all have insecurities. I had an insecurity about being too much of myself, like putting myself out there. I wanted the work to stand on its own, not my image. So I think the gift of maturity and seasoning now is like, it's okay. The big boys and girls in the industry play at that level. You've got to be, if you want to raise, you've got to be in that realm of positioning, marketing. So I'm going to go a little deeper on your audience here. To when people say, they go, oh yeah, this is someone that knows what they're doing. The books speak for themselves. And I feel ready to go now to help a lot more audiences worldwide. It's time to go.
Well, you've got a great way to start going deeper, and you
Thank you.
already have, because, this was one of the books that I thought of when you first
Yeah,
published this. Was this in 2020?
correct.
So like 5 years ago. And you can read this book 1 page a day
Yeah.
and be better for it, especially if you do the journaling exercises within
Well,
it.
thank
It's
you.
just one a day. And
Yep.
then it was such a hit that you were able to do Positive Disruption Volume Number 2.
It took off. And I want to thank Kelsey Sanders, who helped me co-write book number 2 in the series. She's the MacGyver of mind capture. You've met her at many of the events.
She was one of my editors.
Oh, she's phenomenal. So Kelsey, your work is everywhere here. But it was written in the summer of 2020, about 6 blocks from where we're sitting in the studio, right by Snug Harbor here in Grand Haven, Michigan. I sat under a tree. I'm basically unemployed. We're off the road. There's no live events. My CPA is like, oh, what are you going to do? You maybe take unemployment for a few months. You're basically out of business, Tony. So I sat down. I thought, after about 3 weeks of pouting and being upset, let's write a book about quotes and questions that you've always wanted to do. It might be the only window you get a chance to do it. So I literally sat under a tree, almost like a yogi, on a blanket, and just wrote this book called Positive Disruption. It was fun. It was very healing. And then we made a decision to rush it to press in December of 2020. So at the height of COVID, when the world's locked up, we were going on television and podcasts 6 feet apart at that time. And it was able to get the book out there when a lot of people weren't going anywhere. We were making moves. and didn't get COVID, luckily, on the road. Okay. But the book struck a chord because the world was so lost and confused and down. That was the exact opposite. Like, you're writing a book on positive disruption. Haven't you looked around? I said, well, I think a lot of our happiness starts in here. It's
That's
in the
exactly
soul.
right. Yeah.
And whatever's going on externally is going to happen, whether we like it or not. And it was like a deep moment of crystallization that my career's now pivoting. It's going inward, more spiritual. And the old first few books, which I'm grateful to have written, were about marketing and sales and publicity, which you have to do as an author, as you know. Okay. But my soul has shifted the last 7 or 8 years since I quit gambling into more of spiritual, my faith walk in God, the higher power. I'm grateful for that. I mean, the gambling addiction, the biggest benefit I was is my faith walk became strong. It sucked. I talk about it a little bit in the book, but it matured me to a level where I felt like, okay, this is time for you to grow up, figure out who you are and who you want to help. So positive disruption 1 and 2 was the genesis early coming into recovery of like, where do we want to go and who do we want to play with and how do we want to teach?
Yeah. And the impact now,
Yeah.
because you have made references in both books
Hmm.
of both of these. So you want to write a book.
Another one.
And let me just say that this book, you stated early on in the book that the way this came to you is because people kept asking you questions about how to write a book.
Yes.
And that's the lesson. When you keep getting the same question
Oh yeah. You got to
again and
listen.
again and again, you can do something
Well,
with
remember
it.
Forrest Gump in the movie by that name would say, I may not be the smartest writer, Jenny, but when I hear a pattern, and if it's an area that I'm interested in and have expertise, that book is basically like someone eavesdropping me, coaching them like 2 hours on how to write a book. So I'm like, I don't have as much time to maybe work with you one-to-one, but I want to give you a resource to help you versus letting you just float around on AI or the internet to figure it out. So that was a niche book, how to write a book. So go figure, it wasn't written with AI either. It was written
And
before
that's
AI.
something I want to say. I do
Yeah.
appreciate
Thank you.
that you are very involved in your own writing, and it's easy to not be involved in your own writing these days.
And good
so,
editors, thus Kelsey
yes,
Sanders.
right. Thanks, Kels.
And Lara Hellman is a lot of my production design. She does like the last several books. She's very good at editorial. So it's teamwork. So if anyone's listening, you don't do projects without a team around you. You can try,
You can try,
but
but
you're
it
going to
will
waste
totally
time.
be better.
You're going to waste a lot of time too.
Yeah. And that's what I found when I was doing my book. I thought I'm writing a book, and all I thought, like, if you opened it in my mind, it was going to be black and white. It was words, paragraphs.
Yep.
And it is so much better because we added color, we added graphics.
Yep.
My
Looks
team
sharp.
was international. Thank you.
It looks very good.
Also, my mug on the cover. But that I did a survey
Yeah. I remember
because
this.
my editor at the time, the publisher, I should say, he was like, don't put your face on there unless you're famous. And so we did a contest, and that's how that happened. So sometimes you have to go against the conventional wisdom and let the public speak for themselves. And
Totally. It's and like I said, I'm proud of you because we go way back, and I think the big thing is getting uncomfortable is the key now. And the economy's changing so fast. AI, there's a lot of uncertainty. You can feel it. You and I travel a lot. People are very uptight. And people go, that's stereotypical. No, I'm out in front of a lot of people and I fly in a lot of different cities. And you can just sense with all the change, it's got us as a human race, I believe, very kind of triggered. Like, where are we going with this? So a lot of what you teach with your podcast, your message, and your books, you network in the community like I do in the book, like Don't Quit, Do It, is to say, there's a different way. Life goes fast. What do you do in spite of this? Are you going to live in fear all the time? We went through that 6 years ago. We had that drill forced on us. But you can't go anywhere. You can't meet. How'd that work out? I'm not afraid to be controversial more, Melissa. Okay.
it's kind of fun.
And it might get some trolls. I might get some family members that are like, oh God, he's going off again. Because some of my biggest critics are people that the last 20 years were closest to me.
Right. And
Yeah.
that was another takeaway. You had mentioned that you were at an event where Jeff Bezos spoke.
Yeah.
And basically the message was you have to be willing to let people not be your fan.
Yeah. Yeah. Good memory. Yeah. That was a story back in Los Angeles, 2007. I met him briefly. It was when he launched Kindle. How ironic, the day he launched the electronic book on the phones and tablets, he was given like a TEDx talk. And his ending remark was, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. In the age of social media, I've got my phone here. I mean, everyone's on these things. Just go outside. Everyone's like walking into phones, missing cars, almost getting hit. Don't get any ideas behind the control board. But the thought process is we are addicted. It's become almost like an extension of our body. If you don't believe me, lose your phone for a day or two.
You know what?
Most people go
You
crazy.
you actually inspired me to do Solitude Saturdays.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
And that
cool.
morphed into now on Sundays, not every week, but
Yeah.
I try to have a phone fast, like after church,
Oh,
like after that
yeah.
hour, then like until the next morning. And it's crazy because it's like a habit. I might
Yep.
be walking by it or thinking about, oh, I should check my phone, and it's not there. It's because I put it away.
Thou
Uh,
shalt not look to the left to the phone.
so I think that's another way that you've been inspirational in my life personally, but then in others, because with that Solitude Saturday, you had a chart
Hmm.
that you gave me that I fill out every year. I still
Awesome.
do it. I should count how many years. It's probably been like 8. But I gave it to a girlfriend who had a business.
Hmm.
She filled it out. One of her goals was to sell her business by the end of the year.
Okay.
She received a check from the new buyer of her business on New Year's Eve that year.
I'm glad we're recording.
It is
That's
so cool.
awesome.
Yeah,
Well, she took action. You took
she took
action.
action.
And people ask, do you follow her advice? I do the best I can. When you look at 10 books of catalog over 22, 23 years when the first manuscript was written, I follow a lot of things, but you're always changing. So
Well,
a
you
book
have
is a
to evolve, right?
snapshot. It's a constant. And that's snapshots each book where I was at that time with my business, my thinking process spiritually. And I do my best to follow it. I have mindfulness Sundays where I'll try to deliberately slow down. Won't look at my phone as much. That's a new habit the last couple of months to just say, slow down. A lot of great books, the Sabbath on a Sunday, and a lot of the Christian faith is a day of rest. Good luck in the modern world, unless you're Chick-fil-A. I mean, they take Sundays off, but very few people do it. So it
In Hobby
takes
Lobby.
Hobby Lobby. It takes discipline, and it's not easy because we're used to our family like, always wanting us. Where yeah, you can answer your phone.
What if there
It's
was an emergency?
well, we had, go back to the 80s, we had the old phone cords that wrapped around the side of the walls when you had one phone and you had to click it and hang it up. Those were the dark ages, children. But I look at it and say, who's running the machine? Is your phone running you? Or are you balancing out the best you can? Otherwise, you get so stressed out. Another thing I talk about in the book is how do you start your day? If you go right to your phone typically, and you go start going through email, then becomes social media, you're setting the day up in a reactionary mode of stress and cortisol because you're like, I have to look at it just for a minute. That becomes 20 minutes, then 30 minutes. And then you're like, oh, I got to get going now. You've just started the day frazzled because the device owns you. I'm a big believer in the book. It talks about everything from health to spirituality to nature. Balance your life the best you can. Try to establish some harmony. There are sometimes it's nuts. You have
Yeah, you're
clients.
always going to be.
If I'm under deadline or I'm traveling like over a heavy week or two, I don't know what time zone I'm in. I don't know what city some days. And I'm grateful for it. I don't ever complain. I get to fly versus driving. I always
Or I
say
have to fly,
people in
right?
airports that whine, I say, hey, you want to drive from Phoenix to Grand Rapids? You're welcome to. And they kind of look at me like, what's wrong? I don't try to start a fight, but if they're really going off, I don't want that dark energy. They're like, that's kind of a good perspective. It's a lot easier to be delayed 2 hours and fly 3 versus driving 36 hours. So I also challenge people in the book to stop whining, to
Yeah.
take your power back. Quit letting people tell you you're too old for that. Well, that's the way we've always done it around here. That's the way our industry always thinks. Those rules are going out the door real fast. And why not? I'm a little kid at heart, Melissa. We've hung out many times in the events. I like to train from a lighthearted perspective, but not lightheaded. And a lot of what I teach is very simple stuff. My favorite quote from Albert Einstein is the genius is making the complex simple. You do it in your world as a financial wealth advisor, as a teacher and a writer and a trainer. I'm getting more simple with my teaching as I age. I'm almost reversing, not as complex. And the books are there to support the knowledge and other resources I mentioned, but people want simplicity.
Well, and we have so many distractions that
Heck
it's nice to
yes.
have a reference tool to come back to.
Yeah.
And there might be similar themes in books to books or an event or a talk that you give,
Yeah.
but the more we hear it,
Yeah.
the more we can embrace it and adopt it, apply it, and
Yep.
get results from it. So
Yep. I want
it's
to,
not a bad thing to have
no,
repetition.
no, and I want to throw a bold point out, and you're the first to hear it with the engineering team behind the board. We're going after the big podcasters. This is just the start. I could name drop from Theo Vaughn to Mel Robbins to Rich Roll, James Altshuler. We're running and gunning for you. I'll tell you why. We've been waiting for the right time with the right book to go after to help more people. I watch their podcasts. They're all brilliant. I respect them. They're my peers. But what I notice a lot of their guests do, where we're going to go very rogue, they'll tell you, get you all ginned up. They don't give you any solutions to improve your life. That book is loaded with them. I got great stories. I already visualize myself sitting across from a Theo or a Joe Rogan or Mel Robbins going, about time you called me. I'm not kidding. See the intensity? You
You
put it out there, it's time to play.
I have
Because
no doubt that will happen
the
because you've
world right
already
now, I'm tired of people whining. There are resources such as your book. There's podcasts like this. My book is part of that contribution to the collective. Let's talk about what we can still do. I have children. I'm not giving up on my kids. The world's going to hell. There's war. There's conflict. It's always been that way. What do you do to respond to it accordingly? I want my kids to be supported that their dad's out there making changes to help people instead of giving up. So I should challenge anybody watching a clip of this or the full podcast. It's time to start asking better questions. We're in the richest land in the world, the United States, where we sit. There's so much opportunity. And people focus on what? The one problem in their life, and they magnify it all day long in their head, and they magnify and they talk themselves out of their genius. Done. Done. So if their producers want to call me, let's play, because I want to talk about things we can do to help each other.
Tony, one of my pivotal moments in my leadership and maturation was when I came home from work one day and my dad had a note on my counter, and it was the Charles Swindoll quote
Yeah.
about life is about 10% about what happens to you and 90% about how you react to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's that theme all through your career of you choosing the high road, of you choosing your attitude and your reaction and who you surround yourself with. And you've had some amazing interviews with
Mm-hmm.
famous people that we would recognize the names of. And I know that's not the end of it. I know there's more
Thank you.
interviews from other famous people that you're going to have in your career. So um, tell me a little bit, tell our audience what your opinion is on the importance of who you surround yourself with.
Profound question. And thank you for that. I'm very human, Melissa, you know. And in the small town we're in, some of my triumphs and failures have gone very public. But you still have to put your boots on, your shoes, your pants on, your makeup on. As a lady, you got to get out there and you got to get back in the game. Associations right now, not just physical, who you're around with, but also what you're putting in your ears. The podcast, your phone, we've alluded to. What are you letting influence you every day? That software going in your mind is extremely important. And Jim Rohn, who I met, who coached Tony Robbins many years ago, would say that you are the average of the 5 people you associate most with. And Zig Ziglar said it, and a lot of the greats have said the same thing. It's true. That's why you hear it a lot. And you have a lot of people right now that go online looking for advice, nothing wrong with that. But their personal lives, they're around the wrong people that are giving them well-intentioned advice, but it's often negative. And I often say, if you don't watch what advice you're getting from your inner circle, it's like going to the devil to ask how to get into heaven. That's the last person you want to ask. And it's going to be kind of out there. Sometimes your closest friends and family see you from 20 or 30 years ago. They don't subconsciously want you to go anywhere. They don't want you to grow too far. They
Because
feel
they're scared of
threatened.
what?
They're afraid you're going to change on them, or you're going to get too big for your britches. I have former people in my life that still hunt me down and don't like what I do. Some of them are family members. They think I'm a joke. I have had to say, no, I still love you. I forgive you. I wish you well. I really do. This is my calling, my passion. Our life clock is short. I've given it all for this, and I have no regrets. At different points, I did have those regrets, going through divorces and bankruptcy many years ago and a gambling problem. That's not fun. You don't set out to do that when you take a marriage vow, or you don't think, I don't want to be an addict. It happens sometimes. But I have to say, that's who I used to be. That's not who I am now. And what are the lessons that I keep getting knocked down? People go like, you're the most persistent dude. Like, I have a couple banking clients. They're like, you're Mr. Persistence. And it's like, I have this energy and a joy because I talk a lot in the book about I had a lot of friends and family die at young ages around me. And it motivated me like a candle under my butt to go after things, Melissa. And sometimes, you sort of fire ready aim. I had to learn the last several years to, get a little bit more seasoned on the approach. Wise counsel and wisdom has taught me this. But I still make mistakes. But you're going to fail forward. They don't teach us in high school and college
It's not
enough.
failure if you learn from it.
It's a lesson.
Right? Yeah.
It's constant learning.
Yeah.
And you go, look at Edison, the light bulbs in the studio. If you go back 120 odd years and change, he failed, 10,000 times? Then he hit it. He had 10,000 lessons to learn how to get the light bulb
What was
right.
it? 9,999 things that don't work.
Yeah, and you keep learning, you learn, you learn. And I feel like a lot of the interview today in the new book, I'm at a level of confidence now where I feel like I belong, where I can go with these big speakers who I've met at different points over the years. I've shared the stage with all kinds of people. But it's time to say, we're ready now at this moment to really inspire people with ways they can improve. Not me trying to sell them all sorts of crazy stuff. They can buy a book and go, wow, there's some real practical stuff in here that I've learned, my coaches have taught me, not just me, but the collective mentorship of my associations. And it's looking for patterns that work. That seems to work over and over again. Maybe I should try that. There's a pattern there. So absolutely, what you listen to, what you put in your mind, what you see, who you associate with is either bringing you up, it's keeping you the same, or it's bringing you down. Decide wisely what you want to do with your life. I prefer to be doing this because why not? We're here to grow. We're not born to be like, just kind of play it safe your whole life and sit there and do nothing. That doesn't help any of us.
Yeah. I was having that conversation with my son today. I was like,
Really?
hey, when you're ready, I've got resources for you. I've got people on podcasts that I think you would resonate with.
Yeah.
I've got people I can introduce you to with
Good
coaching.
job, Mom.
And yeah, because I don't want him to get stagnant, and I want
Yeah.
him to be able to, he's only 20, so he's
Yep.
got a long time
He's
to
a
keep
youngin'.
incrementally going up. And if we're not feeding ourselves, like you talk about what we let into our brain, it's like a computer program. I think of it kind of as fertilizer. How are we growing, getting our new neural pathways and growing those dendrites and getting them activated? It's real easy. Okay, I like country music, but sometimes when I listen to country music, I end up being really depressed. Like, not because of the dog and the kick and the ex-wife or whatever, you know what I mean? But there's a theme to it and there's a beat to it, and I realize I don't like that, and I'm gonna put on some other more uplifting
You switch the
music.
pattern.
Yeah, because I don't like, I was tuning into how I felt, and I decided I was going to redirect that.
I'm in Nashville in 2 weeks, so this is ironic. I'll be careful what I listen to.
Yeah, because it can have an impact, and that's one of those subliminal things that can happen. So.
How would it feel to know that your money and values were in alignment, that you were able to live your ideal lifestyle and bless others? MMG Wealth Management is your advocate for living and leaving a legacy. Visit mmg-wealth.com to schedule your complimentary welcome call today.
Let me give another quick example. It might be of value. Is the TEDx talk you mentioned in the introduction, okay? There's a 10-year history behind that, and they talk a little bit in the new book about it, that for many years I applied for all these TEDx talks, and I thought, I got this. I'm a professional speaker. I know how to, be in front of a room, and I kept getting denied. And some of the infamous TEDx 10-year story was certain groups were like, we got into a committee fight because they wanted to book you, but then for some reason someone didn't like your video. They thought you were going to try to sell your books from stage. And you know how TEDx is. They're very picky.
It's like a formula.
It's
right?
very much formulaic. You have to follow the rules, which I respect for integrity. And finally, 10 years later, October of 2024, I gave my first TEDx talk. And I had been applying. I got all the rejection emails and letters. And I learned from the year before when I applied to TEDx Detroit that I didn't get selected. There was 300 people applying for like 8 spots. But the promoter, one of the committee members, said, we liked the title of your talk. It got our attention. So I thought, okay, when another TEDx opportunity comes around, use the same title and topic. And I got it the next year, TEDx Kalamazoo. So thank you to Lem and the team and my coach, Karen, who helped me, because I had to start like a beginner. Like they beat me up during the program.
Humbling, wasn't it?
It was like, here's a lot of humble pie. Keep eating it, keep eating it. But I was grateful. I didn't know my TEDx talk would be one of my darkest days. And the title was How Gambling Saved My Life.
And you couldn't have done that TEDx talk 10 years ago.
No,
you
and I didn't want to talk about it for many years.
Right.
That was that's a black mark, scarlet letter. You don't want to talk about it. But what's really cool is there's a picture on the website of my daughters and I after the TEDx talk, Paige and Taylor, that were in the front row watching. And it was the toughest talk I've ever given because I'm talking about darkness, making amends, getting kicked out of my house at the time. And my daughters were staring at me from the side of the audience. And I thought, I don't want to disrespect the family anymore. But it was kind of like a redemption point where like time heals, Melissa. And everyone's walking around with issues. Some hide it, some talk about it too much, but don't be fooled. It's tough sometimes. And people put on the show, they put on the image. And if people want authenticity, it's not easy to always share it. And there's certain stories that aren't in that book. They're too personal. I won't share them. But you have to say, all right, It's okay to stumble forward, to fail forward. And it's the Japanese proverb, knock down 7, get up 8. Certain points in my career, it's been knocked down 600 times, get up on 601st.
I just had a flashback
Yeah.
to those toys we probably had as kids where you got the thing that you can punch and it's got the weighted bottom. You're like,
Yep. The Weeble Wobble like
you're
thing.
the Weeble Wobble that
Yep.
keeps popping back up.
And hopefully as you get older, you get smarter because you know that it's called wisdom. So you have more of a feel where when you get in your 40s and 50s, you have the gift of wisdom. I heard Tony Robbins interviewed a couple weeks ago, and he said, yeah, and you get in your 50s particularly, that's where you're in the sweet spot of your business career because you have the wisdom. You can look at something much faster and come up with solutions, whereas in your 30s and 40s, you're still learning the game. It doesn't get any easier. You just get better perception and wisdom on the process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, and, speaking of our time and chronologically gaining that wisdom, how do you manage your time and have discernment over what you say yes to and what you say no to? Because I know that's hard for a
yeah.
lot of people. And I think there's kind of like a,
I've never been asked that. So my quick reaction is it depends. I sound like a lawyer. Okay. It depends because there's different
which it
ways,
really is.
because I get asked to speak a lot and I'm always grateful and I have to look at, am I available? What's the budget? Is it the right audience? I turn some work away. It's not the right fit. But to me, it's saying at this point, who has got the right fit for what I do? I'm looking to be much more selective who I want to play with. And it's not because I'm better than them. I can refer them all sorts of other speakers. But if I'm not really into it, then I don't want to take the assignment.
Well, you're bringing that negative energy to it, right?
Yeah, and
So
I don't
you
want to
wanna
be,
do that.
I don't want imposter syndrome on the stage. And there's some gigs that I take because they're a challenge and they're brand new. We broke code. The old going rogue version of mind capture was during COVID. Coming out of COVID, I had 2 groups ask me to speak. One was a church and one was a political group here in West Michigan. And I prayed on it. I talked with Kelsey and the team. I said, look, we don't talk about religion or politics in our teachings for 20 plus years very much at all. I just think it divides people too easily. It's easy to get everybody riled up, but I want to unite people. It's very difficult to unite people. It's easy to divide people. It's easy to be negative and grumpy and complain versus being positive. I see it because I get attacked for being too happy. Since I've been a little kid, you're always so happy. What are we supposed to grow up and be grumpy? Like, what fun is that? And I have my moments where I can be grumpy. I'm not always happy. That would be a lie. Nobody is, Melissa.
But it's a choice.
Yeah. So we made the call and we said, we'll speak for your political group. I was expecting all kinds of fallout on social media, no complaints, no comments, no private messages. And I thought, if this party wants me, if the other side wants me to speak, I'll do the same exact talk my way to the same group, different political party. And like half the crowd liked the talk and half couldn't stand me because I didn't talk about politics. I talked about positivity. What can you do? And they're like, who is this guy? He's not dividing or making the enemy of anybody. And I spoke for a Unity Church in Grand Rapids a couple years ago. It was on positive disruption. So I didn't think I'd ever be in front of a church like a preacher. I'm a teacher, not a preacher per se. But we were willing to say, let's expand because the audience is growing. Let's move into different paradigms, but it has to be the way we want to teach it. If they want to divide or change my message or want to interview me and get controversial, I'll just walk off the stage. That's not happened yet. But I just say, the goal is everyone's distracted. Who is out there talking about positivity or uniting people or talking about the things we're doing right? Because it's easy just for people to get negative. We're trained mentally to be looking at, because our fear-based mind, to be scared all the time. So we're like, well, that might go wrong. That might not work. What if they don't buy it? What if you look goofy on camera? Who cares? At least you're doing it.
Well, and I think that when you start to have some success with getting your message out there, when you're true to your values, you're true to who you are as a person, you know your faith, you know your messaging, you know the impact you want to make. You've mentioned it in this book, I believe in some of the other books, that there will be times where people reach out to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry. And let you know how you made an impact in their life. And
It's bizarre because you're like, I didn't know someone's going to read this.
you were like, okay, I'm going to write this because it's on my heart. I've got to get this out there. And then to realize in the blink of an eye, a moment you don't even know it could ever be coming, you get confirmation, affirmation that it was the right thing at the right time. And it's
Melissa,
that
thank you for that.
impacting.
I'll be candid. We're recording, obviously. It's not an easy line of work. If you'd have told me, in the beginning, you're probably going to end up divorced. My mentor said, you're going to be on the road a lot. Good luck having a family. And I look back and say, yeah, some of that stuff did come true prophetically. but you get the letters or the emails from left field. There's a story in the new book, Don't Quit, of a gal that read Positive Disruption. And she sent me a Facebook message a couple years ago out of nowhere. She's locally here. I won't name her, obviously. She said, basically, I'm going through a breakup. My partner was arrested by the SWAT team. I was kicked out of my house. 2 days later, I was allowed to go in. I grabbed my laptop and those 2 books. And those 2 books basically saved me while I was going through my former partner going to jail, prison. The house is destroyed. I'm like, I showed Kelsey, I said, this is why we do what we do. We don't know who it's going to impact, because a lot of people, you don't know if they read the book, they buy it, but they never look at it. You hope something resonates. And I've had a lot of people say the book is like 50 lessons you can go through, like 1 a day.
Yeah.
It's
and
simple
you
by
can do it.
design.
And
Yeah.
there's plenty of room to dog ear the pages.
Well, thank you.
All of those dog eared.
We need to clone you. So I just look at that, and we put a couple of those stories in there because you just don't know the impact, because there could be some weeks you're like, man, why am I doing this, God?
You know what? You told me and Wendy that when we were working on our first talk. We've come a long way.
Yes, we're still here too.
You said, ladies, just do this. You don't know how you're going to impact, like what the takeaway is, but just do it because you're making a positive impact in people's lives, and you may never, ever, ever find out. But just
Correct.
trust that it's there. So trust the process.
Yep.
And I've taken that with me, and that was probably 15 years ago.
Awesome. I get that in certain cities now. Someone will come up, do you remember when? I'm like, oh, here we go. You don't remember it. 12 years ago, you spoke in Omaha, or you spoke in Denver. I'm like, okay. And I just sit there like what's going to happen? And I wrote a book because of you, or I got inspired, or I quit my job, got a better job, or I went on my own. The power of words, the intent, you just don't know where it's going to land. And again, I feel like a rebel with positivity, because I still get people like, you're just too positive. And I'll give you a tip on social media, just like everything, because you're not going to change someone's mind. You can hopefully influence them, get them to think a little bit differently, question their current pattern. But humans, people say, well, my partner won't change. Look how hard it is for us to change. How are you going to change your partner? Good luck with
I
that.
think there's some thought. The way we think can get better always.
True.
Asking better questions, embracing things from a perspective of curiosity. And
You've read the book.
And celebrating possibilities. That's,
Yep.
and not being afraid to take action, because like you said, through failure, it's not failure if you learn a lesson.
Correct. I'm in the reminding business, Melissa. You've heard me say it from stage. I remind people of the obvious, that in a world that's got so much data and noise coming at us, we forget the simple things. So sometimes I'm shocked when a group's like, that was really like deep. I'm like, I think it's kind of like common sense. And again, as
But
I
we
said,
forget to think, how to think.
because there's so many things going on.
Yeah.
And I look at it and go, Lord, like I said earlier in the interview, I'm more, as I get older, what are key principles or stories that connect anywhere from Seattle to Miami that people can go, I understand that, or he's speaking to me? Because the human condition, there's a lot of the same thing. There's blessings, there's joy, there's struggle, there's pain, there's laughter. And a lot of the book is me saying, why not embrace all that? The last chapter is ashes to ashes. We're going to die. So if you get the gift of the rocking chair moment and you're 85, 90, or our kids maybe 150 with all the changes in health, and you get that moment, I always say, I want to look back, if God grants me that, and say, what a wild ride that was, man. We squeezed a lot into this thing, and it was a lot of fun. And man, I gave it all I could, Lord. I'm ready. Versus, I could have, should have, would have, or I don't want to have a rocking chair moment of ton of regrets, Melissa. And some of my biggest failures have become the biggest blessings down the road. I've made amends with former partners. I still love them, but it didn't work out. I've had family members that drifted away, and I've made amends. They've granted me amends. It's a unique gift called life. Get after it. There's no timeouts, Melissa. I'm 53, and I'm in the last potential half of the life, the last third. And I'm like, where are we going to go, Lord? Can I keep my health? I want to keep writing. The goal is 10 more books the next 10 years. So
You
how
put
do we
it
keep
out
going?
there. Now it's not.
Oh yeah,
that's gonna
well we
happen.
got visual and we got a recording
I
of it.
put it on Wendy too.
There you go. But
We have it recorded.
It's the joy of it, and there's days that suck. Not many positive speakers are going to say days that do suck. You still got to make the phone calls. You still got to mail the book. You still got to get on the airplane when you're dead tired. And the audience doesn't care if I'm tired or if I have a family problem going on. They're like, help me. We hired you to give us ideas, to inspire us, not so much motivate, but get us to think about our situation and rattle their mental cage. That's what I get paid to do, is speak my mind. So I don't take it lightly. I don't mail it in. If it's 20 people or 2,000, I'm like, I'm going to give you all I can, because all we have is right now. as we record in real time, this is the most important moment, is the present moment. And when I'm in front of 500 people, I'm like, this is the time where you've got to get out of your head and be thinking, what are you here to help them with? If you've told that story 50 times, you need to tell it like you've told it the first, because they've never heard it. And you need to have the joy and the passion. And if you mail it in, they're going to know energetically you're just doing this for money, Tony. So
The words who, what, when, why, how, where. Out of those 6 words, which one have you found to be the most valuable as a tool when you're trying to process something?
I think probably why.
Why?
The who, what,
Why
when,
is
where,
why?
who, what, when, where, why. We don't always know. And, we met a few weeks ago at a chamber event. We sat at the annual dinner. And that was a little unique for me because I had just come back. I just moved back to Michigan. And I was processing the people that I knew, like you and Wendy, and people I hadn't met. And it was kind of strange to be coming back home again and to be like, okay, I didn't think I was going to be here necessarily. I was somewhere else and had that vision, that plan working out, and it got completely changed. And I'm like, okay, be grateful. We don't know how in our life path, the choices we make, how that'll impact our emotions. My faith walk, all right, Lord, where are we going now? But I'm like, I didn't see myself at that table a few weeks ago. I thought I'd be somewhere else. But I'm like, there's a reason and a specific, I'm supposed to be here right now. And I could sit there and try to examine my head. Why didn't this work out? Why did that not happen? Should I have stayed longer where I was at? But I had to process. You made a decision. You have to keep going. And you have to accept that sometimes when you're driving, you're at an airport by yourself. I have a lot of time by myself. All right, why am I doing this still? And I have to give myself a pep talk. That sometimes it's the loneliest job in the world when you're an entrepreneur because everyone thinks you got it figured out, but I travel the world by myself. And you have to do your best to avoid temptation, which is in the book. Haven't been perfect at that. That's been noted, okay? But how do you learn from those lessons so that, 6 months from now, I say, all right, there's a reason you're at exactly right where you're at now. And if you overthink the why, we're taught in recovery circles, okay? Never try to figure out why you became a gambling addict. You'll never know. You have to surrender to the higher power and go, you'll never know why you became an addict of any kind, why you developed that pattern. And you just have to let it go. The Serenity Prayer teaches us that it's simple and it's one day at a time. Because I could sit there and go, I never gambled that much in my 20s and 30s. Why did I get the problem in my 40s? I'll never know why. But to stop it one day at a time is the best answer I'll ever have. Don't overthink the past. There's another little clue. Because as humans, we replay that. We have the gift, the only creature on earth that can look forward and project and go backward and pull. No other animal can do that. We have that beautiful gift from our creator or higher power, whatever you believe in. Use it wisely. And so I don't want to repeat that lesson. Okay, you learn the lesson from it. Then, okay, when you move forward with that knowledge that you didn't have before.
Well, I know you just got back from your Life by Design Summit,
Yeah.
year number 2. What are you designing for the second half of your life, Tony?
That's a great question. I think I've alluded to a few things is that where do I want to go as far as to teach and write? Okay. Who do I want to help? Who do I want to be with? As far as the team that we've assembled, the clients that are around me, the 2 events we do, we have Mind Capture Bootcamp, and then we have Life by Design now. But what groups can we positively disrupt and serve, and what new groups are emerging? Out of that event in Arizona, we now have potential offshoots where there's Life by Design for veterans, Life by Design for recovering addicts, for therapists. These are people who are coming to us saying, we want that for our specific industry that needs help. So I have to listen. I have to trust my higher power and go, all right, Lord, we didn't see this, but it's other extensions where I'm being open to say, okay, if there's a need there and people really want this, maybe we'll explore a new avenue I never thought of 2-3 years ago. So time will tell. The third one's next year, but there will be more events like that because we found different groups. They're like, they really want this. They're like, we're looking for this. And it's so noisy and confusing that they're like, we've heard, and they usually research the heck out of it before they start to inquire. But that's the importance of being open to change. And not always saying it has to be this way. You got to give a little toggle. If you have a little
Flexibility is good.
toggle, you do that. And sometimes God will drop opportunities or people come to you like, I never thought of that. And that's the curiosity of a child. That's the positive why. Well, why did you say that? Or where does that come from? And if you bring it from that open, curious mindset, sometimes the biggest breakthroughs are right there.
Yeah. You took action. You were willing to pivot.
Yeah.
Last year you had to change the date.
Yep.
So there are things that
You're
have to
learning.
happen. And the key, though, under all of it is taking action and not being afraid.
Yes. The biggest thing that motivates me is that people give up every day on their potential. And my mission is to say, stop, reevaluate. Why are you giving up? We need more people to step up right now, Melissa. The world has all kinds of challenges and problems. There's plenty of things that we can do if we're enlightened to solve the problems. But if people want to check out, I feel like you're wasting your life. Please don't do that. I can't preach
No
at you.
regrets.
It just find something that you're good at. If you have to go back when you were 7 years old, what you were passionate about, and that got you turned on, then find something that if you're 43 or 53, that gets that childlike motivation going again and revisit it. You're never too late to learn a new skill. There are people writing books in their 70s and 80s that are first-time authors. I'm like, some people go, I can't write a book. I'm 43. I'm 53.
You can do anything you put your mind to.
Yeah, I mean, there's countless examples. So in the age of information, use it wisely. This has been fascinating, the ground we've covered. This has been probably the deepest interview I've ever given. And I know that,
I like that.
but you read the book and you did your homework on this. So I'm very, very grateful that we could have a deep conversation and we could do it here in the home, where, West Michigan, where we call home.
That's right. Well,
So-
thank you so much for being here today
very
and
welcome.
sharing with all of our audience, followers, listeners, watchers, and being a source of inspiration and continued coach and mentor for me as well. Thanks to Paul and Wally.
There he is.
And
Back there.
Josiah in the background. If what resonated, if anything today resonated with you, please like it, share it, give a thumbs up, follow it. And this episode will actually be released in the month of your 54th birthday.
Woohoo!
So if you made it this far, which we hope you have, and thank you for sticking with us, wish Tony a happy birthday in the comments, and we'll know
Thank
that you were with us, and wishing him well in his birthday. Thanks,
Appreciate
Tony.
it, my friend. Good to see you.
Likewise.
The content of this podcast is educational in nature and not intended as any form of or substitute for personalized investment advice. Melissa Myers owns Bayou Financial Planning, LLC, which does business as MMG Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor, providing personalized investment advice under a standard agreement for a fee.